So I'm going to be replacing my engine oil pan and the rear main seal, which is here during this project. So first thing, obviously, it's a 5/8 inch. I'm going to drain the oil, and then I'm going to swap out the filter while I'm at it. And I'm just going to let it really drain for a long time, let it real drip so I get it all out of there. So that way when I'm removing the oil pan, I'm not still going to get a lot of oil dropped on me. Okay, so the next part of this rear main seal swap and oil pan swap was removing the 28 bolts that hold up this oil pan. So they're all 11 millimeters to get out. So you want to label them kind of like I did. So there are 4 larger bolts here and here, and here and here. So this would be like the rear by the transmission. This is the front of the car. Hopefully you guys can see this. So the short bolts, in case I'm probably going to replace these, they're 3/4 of an inch long. They're 20 threads per inch. And the large ones are 1 1/8 of an inch long, and they're 18 threads per inch. And there was one that had a stud that I honestly don't think you really need to replace. The stud just was kind of like a small mount for a switch. I may or may not see what I'm going to do with that. Anyway, yeah, so, and then up at the top, so right here where the transmission is, these two were a little harder to get, but there was this little, I guess, extra seal for the oil right there that should just come down once those 2 bolts are off. And what you'll need is, like I said, they're all 11 millimeters, and I had to use the long extension for most of them and the deep well for just the one that had the stud coming out. The exhaust, it was actually easier than I thought. There are 4 of these 15 millimeter bolts, so I used a small socket, and I had to use my smallest ratchet, and it just fit. And that actually came out quite easily. And then the only other thing is there are 2 plugs for the oxygen sensors. So there's one right here and one that comes up right here. And once you get those, it should drop. And now we got a lot of room now. Should be able to get this whole engine pan off and then marvel at the crankshaft in all of its glory. Are the 14 nuts, and this was that big main bearing cap brace, or for all the bearing cap braces, sorry. And so this is the next bolt. So there are 2 bolts that hold the rear main bearing cap. So it's a 13/16, and you need a deep well, as you can see, because of this right here. So I didn't have a deep well, so I just kind of barely threaded it on, and it was like just enough, and I got it loose. This is the lower half of the rear main bearing cap. You kind of wiggle it back and forth to get it free. So here's also the lower half of the seal right here. The upper half is still in there. We're going to very carefully punch it out, like push on one side to get it to come out the other side. We don't want to mar the surface at all, so be very careful. And then we'll get this out, and then we're going to clean it spotless with a toothbrush. So I cleaned the mating surface really well. Use spray cleaner, some Q-tips. You could use an old toothbrush. Make sure it's free of all the old seal. So then we're going to do the same up on like the upper bearing cap, the face that we can see. And if you were reusing your oil pan, I would do that, but I actually just bought a new oil pan and definitely recommend a new seal. Alright, so once everything's clean, first thing we're going to do is put in the upper half of the seal. So you see this little like lip on this seal? That's going to face towards the front of the vehicle. So the upper seal is going to go in like this. This is the old seal. So with the new seal, we're just going to lubricate it, tap it in like before, and then Felpro, here's the part number, I'll include a link in the description, include this little tool. So it's going to kind of go like this in the channel as you install it, right, because you're going to be tapping it in that channel to help prevent you from scratching it by cutting it on the lip of the channel. So this little white piece is going to go in the channel right here, and we're going to tap this in, again lubricate it with some oil, and that'll be it. The lower part of the bearing cap, I installed the seal again with oil, again lip facing towards the front of the vehicle, which is going to be this way. So once that's in, I have this anaerobic gasket maker, so it's going to harden when it's without air, and I'm going to put it, I'll take a picture in a second, but it's going to be pretty much all around here, being careful not to get it right on the edge of the seal. And then we're going to install it, and we're going to torque it down to 80 foot-pounds. We're getting ready to put on this new pan and gasket. So the pan came with these things. Sorry. So they're called pan or gasket snap-ups. So they're the larger bolt size, so they all go in the 4 corners. So like here. So I put them, I got the other 3 already in the block. So then what's going to happen is So the areas we're going to be silicone, we got this high temp RTV, are going to be like the front and the rear by where the main bearing cap is. So I'm going to silicone not only the pan, but also the top of the gasket. So once these four are installed, I'm going to put silicone on the gasket in those areas. Then I'm going to pop the gasket up. Then I'm going to put silicone in the same areas on the pan. Then pop the pan up, screw in a bunch of the other bolts, and then I can remove these. So these, you can see like stuff kind of slides over them. They squeeze but then won't come off. So this will hold it up for me so I don't struggle. So I'm replacing them now with the grade 8 bolts that I bought. Remember to get this oil shield in there too. This goes on the outside on 2 of the larger bolts. And we're going to torque these larger ones down to 11 foot-pounds and the smaller ones to 7 foot-pounds. And then that's it. We're just going to fill it with 6 quarts of oil, and we're done.